Anime has taken over my watch list this past year. I'm talking Dragon Ball, Jujutsu Kaisen, Berserk, and recently, Neon Genesis Evangelion. I thought I knew what made anime special. Its epic stories, striking visuals, and deep themes, but then I watched Evangelion and things got complicated. I wasn't sure how I felt about it at first. While it does have several action-packed moments that are enjoyable, there are also a ton of very confusing moments throughout it. It wasn't until I got this figure, the robot spirits Eva Unit-01, and that's when suddenly everything kinda clicked. And somehow, it made me appreciate Evangelion more than I ever expected. My first encounter with this figure was at the Tamashii Nation store in New York back in 2024. I always liked checking out figures outside of what I typically collect, and this was one that definitely caught my attention. But I can't lie, this wasn't entirely my decision. My friend Brandon, also known as the Lethal Collector, who was there with me, wouldn't stop nagging me to pick it up, insisting I was missing out, especially since he also ended up picking up one of the Eva units while he was there. I was a bit hesitant at first because I tried to avoid impulse purchases a lot these days, but after some consideration and looking at other figures that were in the store, I decided to go ahead and give it a shot. Doing this is actually what caused me to finish Evangelion, because at the time I had only saw a few episodes. I was still very fresh into the series and still very confused at the time as well. So I set a goal for myself to only open this figure when I finished the show. Fast forward to now, I finally watched Evangelion from start to finish, and now it's time to dust this box off and check out the figure that's inside. This thing looks and feels premium. The colors are bold, the sculpt is razor sharp, literally, because Bandai and their obsession with fine point edges, and it carries that unmistakable Eva Unit 1 presence. But the more I take it in, the more I realize this isn't just another mecha. While experiencing Neon Genesis Evangelion for the first time, I discovered that Unit 1 isn't just a machine, but something far more unsettling. It moves human-like, it roars organically, and when things get really intense, it fights like a wild beast. There's a moment in Neon Genesis Evangelion where we get to discover the true nature of the Eva units, especially Eva Unit 1, and it was probably one of the most terrifying moments of the show, but also really cool at the same time. Up until that moment, I thought that the Eva units were simply mechas piloted by children, but then in that moment, I soon realized that that was far from the truth. Seeing that energy translated into figure form with its lanky proportions, sharp angles, and menacing silhouette makes me appreciate just how much Evangelion blurred the line between machine and monster, and that's something that this figure captures perfectly. What really stands out is the silhouette. Evangelion mechs aren't like your typical giant robots. They're lanky, almost alien-like, with an unsettling humanoid quality, and Bandai absolutely nailed that here. The proportions feel just right, the long limbs, hunched over stands, and sharp angles all work together to make it look like it leaped straight out of the anime. And then there's the paint and finishes. Bandai made some great design choices here. Most of this figure has a smooth matte finish, which really helps the sculpt stand out, but the figure also has some gloss and metallic elements to it. The midsection has a slight shine, while the eyes, mouth, and chest feature a subtle metallic finish. Not only does this give the figure more character, but it adds to that premium feel I was talking about, and it also keeps it very screen accurate. Now, when watching Evangelion for the first time, I watched the original series on Netflix, Neon Genesis Evangelion, which is different from the rebuild movies that were released later. The reason I mention this is because I noticed a small detail on this figure that helps distinguish which version this is from. This is actually the rebuild of Evangelion version of Unit 1, not the original 90s series I watched on Netflix. The biggest giveaway is that green panel on the midsection. In the older series, the torso was all purple, but in rebuild, they added this extra color break. It's a small detail, but it's a key distinction between the two versions of the Eva Unit 1. I personally don't have an issue with this change since it flows quite well with the rest of the color scheme, and it kinda makes me want to check out the rebuild movies when I get a chance. Speaking of differences though, Bandai has released multiple versions of the Eva Unit 1, but this one is from their Best Selection line. If you're not familiar, Best Selection figures are essentially reissues of past figures with a few tweaks. Usually that means fewer accessories, but this one still comes with a solid loadout, interchangeable hands, a pallet rifle, a progressive knife, and a special adapter piece for Tamashii stage stands. So no, it's not the most loaded Eva figure out there, there are definitely better options if you're looking for that, but it still gives you the essentials for what should hopefully be some solid posing, and with the exclusive stand I received when purchasing this figure and some Can of Beam's impact effects, it'll add to the action for sure. Good looking action figures only get you so far. The real test, how well does this thing actually move? And honestly, surprisingly well. I'm talking just as good as it does in the anime. It's the other big factor that made me enjoy this figure right away and appreciate the anime even more than I expected. The range of motion feels very similar to Bandai's SH Figuarts line, which is known for its dynamic posing capabilities. But that shouldn't be surprising though, since Robot Spirits and SH Figuarts are both designed by Tamashii Nations, and they know how to make a figure move. The neck has an incredible range, letting it tilt forward for that signature hunched over stance, or stretch back to recreate those eerie, animalistic moments from the anime. And the jaw, it's fully functional, which means yes, you can recreate its terrifying roar. Another cool detail I noticed, the neck panel shifts when tilting the head back. It's a pretty cool feature, and I always appreciate clever engineering like this. The arms move smoothly thanks to cleverly designed joints, allowing for a wide range of motion. The shoulders can shift forward, the elbows bend deep, and the wrists tilt just enough to fine-tune poses. The torso is another highlight with multiple points of articulation, so this thing can crunch forward or arch back, mirroring the Eva's unsettling movement. Then there are the legs. Given the lanky, almost skeletal proportions, I expected stability issues, but the hips, knees, and ankles are surprisingly very solid. The drop-down hips give you some extra range, while the double-jointed knees and toe hinges add some more range for crouches and other poses. Now that we know how this figure moves, it's time to put it to the test with some action-packed posing. After finally unboxing this figure, posing it, and even adding a few upgrades along the way like the Canabeam's impact effects, I can confidently say this was more than just another addition to my collection. Eva Unit-01 is such a unique design, and iconic at that, both sleek and monstrous, and Bandai captured that duality perfectly. The articulation makes it a blast to pose, and while the accessory count is a bit light, the right additions just bring it to life in ways I didn't expect. What started as a cool looking figure became something much more, a new way to experience Neon Genesis Evangelion, and the Eva Unit-01. And of course, I have to admit, my friend was right. I'll never hear the end of it, but honestly, I'm glad they pushed me to get this, because for me, this figure changed how I see anime, especially Neon Genesis Evangelion. Collecting isn't just about owning cool figures, it's about the experiences, memories, and connections they create, and this figure, yeah, this one definitely left an impact. If you want to see some of the most dynamic anime figure poses possible, check out this video where I posed anime figures from Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, and Naruto. I'll catch you all in the next one with more action figure goodness. Peace.